The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's September the 2nd, 2025. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined this morning by our managing editor, Mattt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, or in a better phraseology, the news of the last few days, because the Miami Hurricanes, we've now had a day to kind of absorb what we watched on Sunday night at Hard Rock Stadium. And man, it was interesting. I mean, obviously you're euphoric. You beat freaking Notre Dame, okay, the number 5 or 6 team in the country. Miami has not had a victory like that since 2017. You beat Notre Dame. You don't, that's enough. Okay, that's everything. However, that's not reality. Okay, this is football, and everybody out on this side of the deal are football fans and Canes fans, and they live and die by every aspect of the game. So there has been a lot to unwind and talk about here in the last few days, and we will try to cover it with you guys a little bit on the show, give you our thoughts, and just slice it and dice it up a little bit for you, because I know that a lot of this is on your minds. So Matt, let me start with this. Okay, I thought Miami was 14 to 20 points better than Notre Dame after watching that game. Okay, the kick got botched in the first quarter. They were up by 2 touchdowns. They really should have been up by 17 points early in the third quarter, and then they pretty much almost mailed in the entire second half until they got caught at the end and had a rise up and play, have a Superman ending there. And wow. They played for the field goal. We talked to Shannon Dawson about it yesterday. We'll talk about it on this show. It worked out. Carter Davis splits the uprights. Miami goes home euphoric. They've won the first game of the year against Notre Dame. Okay, so obviously there's a ton of great things that comes from that. We are seeing the potential that this season has. I don't think Miami will play a better team than Notre Dame this season. With all respects to what Florida State did to Alabama the other night, I thought Alabama was as disappointing as any team in the country at their lack of competitiveness in Tallahassee. I think Florida State is massively improved over a year ago. I'm not convinced that they are as improved as Alabama made them look, but we will see. I mean, listen, Miami's going up there in 4 weeks from now, so we're gonna see. We're gonna get an up close look, without question, and that game certainly has taken on a new meaning. So Matt, your thoughts on what you saw at Hard Rock Stadium?
You're so negative. I mean, they
I'm
should have
not
won
negative.
by 20. They should have won by 30. If they won by 30, they should have won by 40. Never good enough for
I
Ferman.
figured, you know what? I figured we had so much to talk about tonight that I didn't queue up all the videos that I got out at the stadium the other day. Everywhere I go, all people want to talk about is Mattt Shodell. Mattt Shodell. Gary, you should listen to Matt. Oh, tell Matt he's crazy. It's everywhere. Everywhere I turn, Matt. I mean, it's like, it's nauseating.
The only video you sent me was some guy saying he wants to murder me because I ruin his mornings. And then his wife says he's miserable in the morning too.
His wife comes up to me 10 minutes later and says, that guy you were talking to? I got news for you. He's not so pleasant in the morning either.
Well, that's why I don't leave the press box. I run into the press box from my car and I never leave because the fans hate me. But there are several truths that you always learn from game one. And one of the definite truths, which Gary somewhat alluded to, is had Miami faded at the very end, if last year's defense showed up, and if Notre Dame's offense wasn't, as my son called CJ Carr, if CJ Carr wasn't, quote, ass, that's what my son called him, said CJ Carr's ass, which my wife thinks that's a compliment. I'm pretty sure it's not. But if by some magical whatever, Notre Dame gets a field goal, gets a touchdown on the last drive, winds up winning that game somehow, the outcry from fans would have been so ferocious It would have been the fire Mario Cristobal bandwagon. It would have been the get rid of, the offensive coordinator. I mean, it would have been crazy.
It's crazy.
And it's because of what you just said. They should have. I agree. They should have won. I predicted they win by 11. After watching that game, they should have won by 17. They took their foot off the gas. And the reason fans are a little bit upset, even though how can you be upset beating Notre Dame? You can't be, right? But for those fans that are taking some sort of issue with this game, which they shouldn't, right? You win by 1 point ugly. It doesn't matter. It's game one. You just beat a top 10 team. It shouldn't matter. But with that said, fans want to not just see the wins. They want to see the signs of progress, the signs that we are, quote unquote, back. We're kicking butt.
I think it's because they did see the signs of progress.
And in the old days, you don't take your foot off the gas. If Mario Cristobal is what he says he is, which is relentless, dominate, knock the heads off guys, that's not run up the middle on 3rd down and 3 and settle for a field goal, which Shannon Dawson explicitly said he wanted to do, which I don't know why he'd say that out loud. I mean, that's capitulating. A kicker who was 4 for 11 at FAU in his entire career, who barely won the starting job over a guy who couldn't make a field goal for Texas last year, that's who Shannon Dawson says he didn't want to, instead of the $4 million guy that they signed, put the ball in his hands on 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4, whatever it was. You're using the South Dakota, not that he's bad. I mean, Marty Brown looked great. And I understand that they were getting some yards on the ground, but they were getting yards to the tune of 3.1 yards per carry. So it's 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, Notre Dame selling out against the run. Are you going to run the ball to use their last time out, which Shannon Dawson claimed was genius on his part because he's been playing against this defense, and he knew that a sack takes 30 seconds off the clock, and they had no chance, Notre Dame. No chance, right? They have no chance until they have a chance.
The way it played out, it was genius because it worked.
Correct. The way it played out, it worked. I wouldn't say it's genius, but it worked. But the flip side of that is this is college football. We've all seen these things happen. And it was not out of the realm of possibility with 1:04 seconds left that they could have driven and got a tying field goal. Whereas if Miami gets the first down, the game's over, right? You're in much better field goal position. You can keep on moving the ball, whatever it is, and there's going to be no time left. You just need a first down, and you got a $4 million arm versus 1 timeout that you want the other team to spend. It worked out. It worked out. And I want to say luckily because, I mean, yeah, there was like maybe a lucky interception, a lucky, amazing catch like I've never seen in my life. Like some things definitely went Miami's way, but some things also went Notre Dame's way. There was calls that went Notre Dame's way. There was non-calls that went Notre Dame's way. So, people were saying, Miami got lucky with a couple of things here and there. They went both ways. Miami was clearly the better team. Clearly the better team, which is why it's a little upsetting to some fans that they almost blew it at the end, because that's the stigma that's sticking to Mario Cristobal, is that he coaches his way to losses. His team was clearly better than the number 5 team in the country in the opening game. That's what we should hang our hat on. And I'm so proud of the coaches for listening to me and using Malachi Toney for the entire game instead of relying on the more experienced guys and the transfer portal guy you bring in. This is what Miami has to be doing at every position, right? Play the best guys. You clearly could see that a 17-year-old, just turned 17, by the way, with 0 experience at the college level, who has only played a junior year of high school, okay, and played quarterback for some of it, was the best receiver on the field. And we clearly saw it in the spring and into the fall, listed as a co-starter, which is fine because he played the whole damn game. And I think Josh Moore, like, what did Keelan Marion do other than draw a pass interference call? CJ Daniels had a miraculous catch, didn't do anything else. Josh Moore is the next guy who's got to be that Keelan Marion, because I've seen the practices. I've heard what they're saying out of there. Like, that guy is Malachi Toney on the outside. He's explosive, fast, tall, physical. So I think that's Miami has to trust him. This is a long season, right? And you can say, Notre Dame was the toughest game we play. Maybe it will be. If Notre Dame turns out to be,
they won't play a better secondary for sure.
No, they will not play a better secondary, which is the other reason. That's another reason that Shannon Dawson said he didn't want to throw the ball, even though they had tremendous success. Carson Beck was brilliant. That's another truth. He didn't force the ball down the field against a great secondary. A lot of quarterbacks, they want to be flashy. They want to make splash plays. They want to get the crowd hyped up. They love the cheering. Not Carson Beck, man. He's just a dude. He's just like whatever. He just follows the program. If there's a playbook, he follows the playbook. He doesn't do what he's not supposed to do. Like, that was what I was most impressed about with Carson Beck, because I've seen so many Miami quarterbacks And Carson Beck had it. You saw him look downfield on several plays. I saw him almost pull the trigger on some deep passes one-on-one. And he's like, I'm just taking the 5-yard pass to the open guy. That happened multiple times. Did he miss wide open guys for 2 touchdowns that I saw? Yes, he didn't see those guys deeper down the field. But game manager-wise, A+, accuracy-wise, a couple of, maybe not great ones, but an A in accuracy. Leadership, decision-making, A+. Like, he's as advertised, And I hope in my heart of hearts that Miami understands this team will only go as far as the passing game takes it, because other teams are going to be taking away the run. They know the offensive line. They know Mario. They know what Shannon Dawson does. Run between the tackles, bury you down there, try to grind him out in the fourth quarter with the run game, wear you down. And there's going to be teams that are good enough on offense that it's going to be a 50-50 game. And they have to put the ball in Carson Beck's hands a lot more against those teams. And I'm hoping it's just because, hey, Notre Dame secondary is so great, they didn't want to risk it. That's fine with me. But I really want to see in the games ahead, even against Florida, which has a decent secondary, I want to see them really attack down the field with the passing game. But yeah, and I think Notre Dame also really, I was shocked at their offensive game plan. Shocked. I mean, they came out and they essentially said, we think Miami's defense is better than us. Because instead of doing their strength, right? If you guys remember the first 2-3 drives, all Notre Dame did was throw the ball. They ran the ball once in their first, I think, 7 or 8 plays, which was shocking. How on earth do you look at Miami's defense and say we can't run against them when they arguably have the 2 best running back tandem in the entire country? I mean, I think most people believe that's true. So, I understand they were playing chess. They thought they were playing chess. But they didn't understand they were playing chess against a madman. Corey Heatherman, if you look in his eyes, he ain't playing chess. He's going to reach across the chessboard and strangle you. He doesn't care about the chess game. And Corey Heatherman strangled them because they mentally screwed themselves, Notre Dame. They took themselves out of the game in the first half. They were down 21-7, in part because of that. CJ Carr misfired on several passes 5 to 10 yards away from his arm. He was not good, clearly not good. And, but the truths of this game are Miami beat a top 5 team that's really good. The offense, I thought, was really on point. The entire team, as a matter of fact, very few penalties, very few mentals, the busts, the miscommunications on defense almost entirely gone. Yeah, the 65-yard play, I understand that they didn't get the correct coverage call over the top, but that it is what it is. I mean, teams have that happen all the time. They're still great defenses. Aside from that one play, the longest gain, I think, was like a 26-yard pass where O.J. Frederick was right in position, and just the guy made a really great catch over him. Miami secondary looked great. I was pleasantly surprised at David Blay and the defensive tackles. Pleasantly surprised at Jacoby Thomas. Those were 2 areas on defense I was concerned about. So, receiver, defensive tackle, and the safeties. Those were the 3 spots that we were like, those are question marks. We don't know. Game 1, I'm saying I like what I say. And I do think this can be a top 30 offense and top 30 defense at the end of the season. Scoring offense, scoring defense. And I looked it up. I asked some other people, none of them can get it right. I asked them, when is the last year that Miami had a top 30 offense and top 30 defense in the same season, which isn't that amazing. Like top 20 is pretty damn good. Top 30, it's good, but it's not like the greatest thing in the world. If you're number 26 on offense and number 28 on defense, like that's a good team. Is it like a national championship team? I don't know. So what do you think the last year is that actually happened at Miami? Top 30 in both categories at the end of the year.
When?
2004.
Wow.
2004. Yeah, I went back every single year. And that could, that's the old Miami. Like, we could get back to that this year, finally, and that's what you sort of have to do every year. You have to have a good offense and a good defense in the same year. That's the key. And I think they're finally getting around to that. So yeah, I'm drinking the, I guess, what would you call it? The Cristobal Aid. I'm drinking the Cristobal Aid.
I'm trying to see if they got. I don't see stats up yet for this season, so I can't really. I'm looking for them, but
they're not going to be. They're not going to be in the top 30 in scoring defense. But they played they played Notre Dame. They're going to get there when they play some of these lesser teams. Well, shut up. After next week, they'll be top 30 in both. But the question is, do you keep that going?
All right. So here's the thing, and I hope that there's nobody inside the Miami football program that's taken aback by the interest that the fans are showing in some of these topics, because it was earned. It was earned by how good this team looked at many moments in that game on Sunday night. I mean, after the game, Mario Cristobal said that he thought the defense was elite, other than that 62-yard coverage bust pass that they gave up in the fourth quarter. Obviously, that was critical. It led to a tying touchdown by Notre Dame. But the defense was elite. I agree with Mario. They were unbelievable and made a lot of phenomenal plays along the way. I mean, Damari Brown, that bubble screen blow up of his that resulted in Ruben Bain's interception, that was as good as the defensive play as you're ever going to see. On the offensive side, CJ Daniels, that catch that he made for the touchdown, I mean, that's as good as anything you will ever see at any level of football. The way he extended for the ball beyond what you would reasonably think was possible and just pulled it down with one hand. I mean, it was amazing. Yeah. I didn't get to see SportsCenter on Sunday night, but I'm assuming that made number one in the top 10, because I can't imagine what would have been better than that. So, you see what they're capable of. Carson Beck, his decision-making, I thought was phenomenal, like you just talked about, Matt. And, his checkdowns were on point. They had beautiful plays designed for Malachi Toney to get him out into open field for first downs. The whole thing was looking magnificent. They call it the middle eight. It was a little bit more than the middle eight this time because of how well Miami executed it. It's more like the middle 10 or 11. But they score at the end of the first half, and then they get the kickoff in the third quarter and they score again. That's called putting the game away, or it should be. That gave them a 14-point lead at that point, and then the defense stops Notre Dame on its next possession. The offense gets the ball with an opportunity to just absolutely put the whole thing away, and they had 4 possessions without a first down. They didn't get a first down between the first possession of the third quarter and the last possession of the fourth quarter. That was like the Syracuse game where they blew the huge lead up at Syracuse, and they got caught. Okay, so now they got caught once and lost, and they survived a second time. And you gotta put teams away, especially when you're playing a good team. You need to put them away when you have the chance to put them away. And I do think that some of the questions that the fans are asking are very fair. They clearly became more conservative on offense. They were running the ball up the middle, very often.
I found it interesting. Shannon Dawson claims that he ran a lot of outside stuff. I don't remember seeing anything.
I agree. I didn't remember it either. I heard him say that. Yeah, I was like, oh, really? Did we miss something? I think he called it outside zone, but I think it still ends up, being between the tackles.
No, he said they ran stretch plays. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing them. But the fans that are, questioning the conservatism are not wrong. I mean, the offense absolutely became more conservative and absolutely became less effective, and it almost cost them the football game. And you're right. Had they lost that game, the uproar because of what had happened beforehand and how good that Miami looked and how clearly better than Notre Dame Miami was would have been off the charts, and it all would have been self-inflicted, and another season of Hurricane football would be compromised. And but the good news is they won this time. And these are all things that they can internally address and decide if they really made the right strategy. I mean, on the flip side, the offensive line and running backs are an absolute strength on this football team. I mean, they have 3 running backs that are phenomenal. They got a strong offensive line. So it's not like, oh my God, Mario and Shannon Dawson are the worst football coaches in the world because they want to put their fate in the hands of their offensive line and their running backs. The problem is you're playing a really good defense in Notre Dame, and if you're telegraphing what you're doing over and over and over again, they're going to gear up to stop it, and they have the manpower to do so. Okay, and they were getting Miami in third down, 4 times, and Miami didn't convert. and that totally changed the ball game. And Notre Dame came back and tied it late in the fourth quarter, and Miami had a rise to the occasion. And to the Canes' credit, they did. I mean, they put together a great drive. But even that, like Matt said, was like, hold your breath, man. It's like they were playing for a field goal, and he was phenomenal on Sunday night, Carter Davis. But I mean, it's not. I mean, he was a 4 for 11 kicker at FAU last year that they brought into the program to be a kickoff guy. But then he suddenly beat out Abram Murray in the spring, and now he beats out Bert Auburn in the fall, and now he's your kicker. But I mean, yeah, he earned a lot the other night, but he still was a 4 for 11 kicker coming into that.
You know what's really funny to me, and maybe it shouldn't be funny, but last year Miami had arguably the best kicker in the nation, and Mario would constantly go for it on fourth downs, right? And they'd play. They'd throw the ball on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, whatever. Cam Ward would do whatever. And now this year, when they don't have a kicker that they know anything about, they're playing for field goals. Like, do you remember them ever saying once last year, yeah, we played for the field goal because we knew Andy Borregales would hit it? I can't remember them saying that
Tech
once.
Game. If he had taken the field goals at Georgia Tech, they might have won. They probably would have won.
I'm not going to rehash that, but it's just funny. The very first game, they're like, we played for the field goal. When last year they didn't do that once, and they're the best kicker in the country. Now they got some guy who couldn't hit a field goal at FAU. I just find that ironic. But the other thing that this is the point that everyone's sort of glossing over, and it's an amazing thing to say. Miami has a better roster than Notre Dame. That was clear. First team roster, and maybe even into the second team. That's what's shocking to me. Like, I thought Miami was going to win, but I thought they were going to win because Carson Beck versus CJ Carr. I knew that was a massive advantage for Miami. And I said it in our show Friday morning, and on Saturday, anybody who tuned in for any of those games saw exactly what I was talking about. First-time starters on the road just do not do well, okay? No matter whether your name is Manning, Carr, or Leibowitz. I don't think there's a Leibowitz. If there was a Jewish quarterback, I would root for him, but there is no Leibowitz quarterback. But if there was, I'd root for him. I want to be clear. Now, with that said, it wasn't just the quarterback advantage. Miami had a better offensive line. Miami had a better defensive line to me in that game. Even the secondary for Miami, it wasn't probably as good as Notre Dame, but it certainly wasn't a weak area.
Much worse.
Wasn't that much worse at all. Linebackers were just as good as Notre Dame's really good returning linebackers. Notre Dame had 3 really good ones, including a rover. What am I saying? Oh, Miami's running backs outrushed. By the way, I posted on the message board before the game. I'm like, would I be crazy to predict that Miami has more rushing yards than Notre Dame? And they did. Okay. Miami's 3-headed attack. I mean, Jeremiah Love's insane. Like, how they didn't get him the ball more than, 10 carries? Like, that dude is going to be an NFL Hall of Famer. I mean, you just see Marshall Faulk-like qualities with that guy. It's insane, the amount of power and ferocity and quickness and speed. And I mean, I think at one point he jumped so high he almost landed in the second deck of the stadium. I mean, the guy is relentless. And again, that's another thing. I can't believe Notre Dame didn't scheme up more for him. They threw him one pass down the field. It was off the mark. But that guy catches the ball. He runs the ball. He touched the ball 12 times the whole game, which is shocking. Again, if I'm a Notre Dame fan right now, I rate at their coaches. So Miami should lay off any Miami coaches because, I mean, we won. And honestly, I would argue Miami outcoached Notre Dame. I know Mario still called those stupid timeouts that everyone's probably like, what's he doing? They're going to do a fake punt. Mario's got all this stuff going on in his head. He's just called timeouts. That also could have cost them in some situations. But honestly, I think Miami shockingly outcoached Notre Dame because Notre Dame's coaching, I thought, was pretty atrocious with some of the game plan stuff they did in that game. And I couldn't believe at one point they didn't even pull CJ Carr. I mean, he was playing terrible for one stretch. And Minchie was neck and neck with him, and the QB draw was killing Miami. As it turns out, Heatherman didn't even prepare Miami for the QB draw. He literally admitted that to us yesterday. Yet Notre Dame didn't bring in the running quarterback. How Heatherman prepared for a Wildcat offense, but says he didn't prepare for a running quarterback doing quarterback draws, I don't. That's one thing that was like a red flag to me that he said yesterday. But other than that, and if he hadn't said it, I would have said Heatherman was did an amazing job in game one. That made me say he's not so amazing. But overall, I was thoroughly impressed with Heatherman's defense, the scheme, the way players picked it up, the way he called the game. I watched the first 2 series very closely again just to see what he did from the start of the game. And he really mixed things up. He went zone, he went man on back-to-back plays. He brought the blitz from the linebacker, put 5 on the line, dropped 1 back. Like, he was doing all sorts of different stuff. Rushed forward with 2 high, had 1 high. Those first 2 series, he threw everything, a million different looks at CJ Carr to see what sort of would stick. And Notre Dame did have a little success on that first drive. But then you saw the Miami defense really stiffen. And the amazing thing about it is, like, Notre Dame didn't even bother trying to see if their offensive line could hold up against Miami's defensive rush. There was no 5-step drops. There was no, let's see, go to my second and third read. They said CJ Carr sucks. We're just going to do 1 quick read, and that's the end of it. That was their game plan. Like, that was Notre Dame's offensive game plan. And if you're a Notre Dame fan, I would encourage you to become a Miami fan, because it's going to be a lot more fun to watch the Hurricanes this year than, as my son said, the ass that we saw on display from the Irish side in that game.
I mean, I felt like Miami had more weapons. I felt like, the defenses were somewhat.
Miami's receivers, I think, were better than Notre Dame's. Yeah, I mean, across the board. I mean,
they kept themselves from winning convincingly by the way they approached offense in the third and fourth quarters after they got ahead by 2 touchdowns. It almost got away from them, but it didn't, which is the good thing. And they move on, and they got the W in their back pocket, and they can continue on the season, and hopefully in those situations successfully be a little bit more aggressive, because they very much were looking to avoid turnovers without question in this game. All right, let me take a moment now to talk to you guys about Modelo. You see them at the stadium. You're seeing them on TV. The Modelo brand is everywhere for college football season, and that's because if the football season is here, it looks like you deserve a Modelo. And college football season is Modelo season, so reward your full-time fandom with an ice-cold Modelo, the official beer sponsor of the college football playoff. The Modelo Recruiter is back in action, looking to reward full-time fans who give their all for their team. So if you're listening to this, that means you're a full-time fan, because you're watching this show, and you've been recruited too, and that means it's time for an ice cold reward. So some things in life are just made for each other. Peanut butter and jelly, macaroni and cheese, and Modelo and college football. You live and breathe football, and that means you are a full-time fan, and that means you deserve a Modelo. So go grab yourself a Modelo today, maybe even when you're at the stadium Saturday for the Bethune-Cookman game, and then stay game day ready with Modelo all season long. I also want to take a moment to talk to you guys about CaneSport, which, man, I don't know how many of you made it to CaneSport this weekend, but the store was absolutely packed. And, it's funny. I was getting calls from former players and stuff that wanted to go to CaneSport and buy stuff, and they couldn't get to the front door. Gary, help us! One of them was Devin Hester. He's like, it's like, if I go out there, I'm going to get bombarded. I'll be signing autographs for 3 hours, and he was there to get some clothes for his kids, and then he had somewhere else he had to be for lunch, and so I helped him out. I called Brent and Ken, the owner and manager of CaneSport, and they took care of Devin and so many other people that wanted to load up on Canes gear. But at CaneSport, they have the largest selection of Miami Hurricanes gear anywhere in town, more gear than you could ever imagine. They have T-shirts, jerseys, polos, hoodies, hats, magnets, decals. If it has a U logo on it, they have it at CaneSport, and they have all sizes for men, women, kids, babies. They even have gear for your pets. And hey, if you want to tailgate at the Bethune game on Saturday night and you need a tent and some chairs, they'll even sell you that at CaneSport. And they even have gear for Dolphins, Panthers, Inter Miami Soccer. There's no better time than now to go get yourself all stocked up for the new season. CaneSport is more than a store. It is an experience. And they're located at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, right next to the Spada Sub Shop. So you can load up on your tailgate food if you want while you're shopping for clothes at CaneSport. CaneSport is also always open at caneswear.com. Great website. You could shop 24 hours a day. They ship out your stuff right away. CaneSport is your spot to get it all done if you're looking to load up on Canes gear. So CaneSport, 2655 South University Drive in Davie. That's 15 minutes north of Hard Rock Stadium. Or CaneSport.com for all your Miami Hurricanes merchandise needs. All right, Matt, let's get back to business here.
Go to CaneSport. They have Hurricanes clothing. Address, phone number.
You're trying so hard to get kicked off the show. You really
That'd be great. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
listen,
please.
This show's gonna end, and I'm gonna just tell the truth. Matt's an alcoholic, okay? And when this show ends, he's going to his refrigerator and he's popping a Modelo. I guarantee.
Oh, yeah.
There is no doubt about it. And one of these days we're going to get him the Canes wear so we can get rid of those damn alligator shirts that he loves to wear and get him some better stuff. But
what's the step where you have to apologize to people when you're an alcoholic? Because I'm skipping apologizing to you for anything. Period. I will never apologize to you. I don't care if I have to do it to get my certificate for whatever the hell that is. You're not getting an apology for anything ever after reading all those ads and then telling me I'm an alcoholic. All I drink is old fashions. I don't even drink beer. I don't like beer. It bloats me.
All right. So let's get back to business here. The offense, I thought Carson Beck was elite. He was just so professional, and he'll have better stat days than he had against Notre Dame because they didn't really get too many opportunities to open it up. The Notre Dame secondary was very good, and it took a Superman play by CJ Daniels to get that one touchdown. And but I thought he was rock solid. And the running backs, it was proven Miami has three guys. We needed to see Marty Brown. He came in from North Dakota State in the transfer portal, and we knew that he was a solid inside runner at North Dakota State, but we needed to see it at this level. Now we know, and Jordan Lyle will be back. He will be at practice today. There's no issues with Jordan Lyle. He just got nicked up a little bit, and Marty Brown got so hot that they decided to leave him in the game. So they're really good there. Offensive line was pretty damn good. I mean, they had a couple plays where they got beat by a really good defense. I couldn't believe it. I saw Francisco Mano I think gave up a sack in the game and got beat on a pass rush.
Shocking, yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen that before. Credit to the Notre Dame guy that did a great job getting around them. But I can't remember which one it was. But for the most part, the O-line did its job. They played power football. And Marty Brown ran very tough. Mark Fletcher ran very tough. And it got them out of victory. But moving forward, there is so much upward mobility for this offense. Where was Elijah Lofton on opening night? Pretty much missing in action. He had one catch. That's an elite football player who's capable of doing so many things this season. And I feel pretty confident that we're going to start seeing that before they get too deep into the schedule. But just remember, they play Florida and Florida State here early in the season. Games they got to win. Let's not kid ourselves. And, they're not looking to show their entire offense right now. So,
not against Bethune, but they would do whatever they had to in the first game for sure.
Yeah, but but they didn't. They really didn't show a ton on Sunday night. They basically ran the ball between the tackles most of the night.
They showed a lot with how they're going to use Malachi Tony. There's a film study this morning you can see. I mean, it's actually really interesting. How Shannon Dawson, if he has a massive strength, it's how he uses his slot receivers. I mean, NFL teams should study what Shannon Dawson does with his slot guys. It really is remarkable how he uses these guys very successfully.
Yeah, and the way he used Malachi Tony in the game the other night was phenomenal.
So
a few really well-designed plays, and kudos to Shannon.
Did you just repeat everything I say with different words? Is that your new thing? Just repeat.
They were really, really, really well designed.
Right. By the way, if you were running in the game, I know exactly how many yards you'd average. Do you know how I know that? Take a guess how I know how many yards you would average 0.53 yards per carry, and ask me how I know that. 0.53 yards per carry.
How do you know that?
Because Marty Brown averaged 3.6 yards per carry, but 3.07 of them were after contact, which shows you how much of this load he took upon himself. I mean, the offensive line, Notre Dame, their defense was crashing and narrowing the window in those gaps, and Marty Brown was just shoving them backwards.
Yeah,
So I'm impressed you would have averaged 0.53 yards, actually. You may not have even averaged that probably because your first step is so slow. You probably would have averaged like minus 4.2 yards is probably a little closer to it. But,
Hey, your horse picture's crooked, by just so you know.
Oh, wow. You're right.
That or your head's crooked. But
no, it is crooked. You're right.
Yeah. All right. So receiver wise, I mean, obviously Malachi Toney was the focal point of the day, but I thought Keelan Marion did some good things. Josh Moore had one that he I guess dropped, but he did make another catch, and he was looking pretty good out there. JoJo Trader's ankle clearly was not 100% yet. They limited him to pretty much pass routes going straight ahead. But that will improve with each week, hopefully. So the bottom line is they kept a fairly tight rotation at receiver. I mean, Tony Johnson was out there a little bit, but I think we're going to see that get expanded here in the coming weeks. There was a lot of pressure on this game. It's easy for us to sit here and say, oh, geez, they should have done this, they should have done that. This was a game Miami had to have, Matt. And, that brings a lot of pressure. And nobody would publicly represent it that way, but we can represent it that way. Miami, Mario had to have that victory Sunday night at Hard Rock Stadium. When you look at the commitment of the university, when you look at all the work that has gone into putting this team together, they had to have that game. And, they did what they had to do, and it was a better victory than it's going to get credit for because of the way the lead went away in the fourth quarter and the way that that they had to win it. Defensively, we've talked a little bit about that. Ruben Bain and Mesidor were absolutely incredible. Mesidor, God bless him, man. That kid's been through so much with all the injuries and the special shoes that he needs and everything else. But man, when that game was on the line, he got in a zone. You could just see it. You could just see it in his body language, and that him and Bain.
It wasn't so much when the game was on the line. What happened was, and Heatherman pointed to it, they hadn't been able to rush the passer the whole game because they had to maintain the edge, keep gap control. They knew with a minute 4 left, finally, for the first time in the whole game, they knew CJ Carr was not throwing a quick pass. They didn't have to try to get in a quick passing lane. They didn't have to, hold back and make sure it wasn't like a delayed handoff or a QB run or whatever. They could finally just, as they say, pin their ears back. What is that? Pin the ears on the donkeys? I don't know where that saying comes from. No one's pinning their ears, but they could pin their ears back and finally just rush the quarterback. And that's what Heatherman says is so exciting, because he says they weren't able to really show it. Heatherman is clearly excited, or at least his eyes bulged a little bit extra when he talked about this, about the defensive pass rush that they can create. And you saw Marquise Lightfoot early in the game, with his speed. I was shocked that, here's a defensive end chasing down a quarterback who had an angle, who had, what was it, maybe 2-3 yards of grass in front of him, in front of Marquise, and Marquise just made up the ground, and that was the end of that play. And they've got 2, 3, 4 other linemen like that. Malik Bryant's on the second team ahead of Hayden Lowe, who I think should be in games more, but we'll find out.
I don't remember. Did he even
play? No, he's a third teamer. They did release finally a depth chart when they released some heights and weights. It was a massive secret. That's actually why they won the game. Mario said afterwards the biggest reason they won the game, he said, is quote, because we did not release a depth chart. He said that's why they won the game.
I was surprised they didn't have a single rep.
No, but he's a third teamer. Why would he in a game like that, right? Look, some of the depth chart stuff we sort of knew was coming, but that wasn't one of them. I was sure Hayden Lowe was going to be on the second team at tackle. It wound up being Blunt or at end, and or both. But yeah, I guess they just feel he's not ready. Justin Scott was in a similar boat last year. We thought 5-star, looks fast enough, but they were like, no, he's just not ready, and that sometimes happens. So they're going to keep.
I think Notre Dame is what happened, and I think Notre Dame is a better football team than people want to believe. And so they had Miami's respect, and maybe too much respect, because I felt like Miami was a couple of touchdowns better, like I said earlier. Yeah, so Bain and Mesidor were unbelievable. The linebackers were okay. Toure didn't really have the kind of game I thought he would have, but I'm sure that'll change going down the road. I thought Wesley Basainth was his best self the other night. He played really, really well.
Yeah. He's gained weight and he looks more at home in the middle than he did at Will. I mean, he doesn't have to play quite as fast in the middle. He can be a little more physical, more attacking, just forwards versus horizontally. And I think he's just much more comfortable in that role. So I think it was very smart of them to we thought Torrey was going to probably be in the middle with Basainth outside, and it's the reverse. And I think that was a really good decision. I mean, Heatherman clearly understands his personnel, and he's clearly using them really well, which is refreshing. It's nice when you have good players and good coaching, right?
Yeah, and the secondary was just spectacular. I thought Jacoby Thomas made several really, really good plays throughout the game.
Took good angles. How about that?
Amari Brown, considering what he goes through, with the constant injuries and issues that he has, he looked unbelievable out there. You
know what the most impressive play to me from Jacoby Thomas was? It probably wasn't something anyone even noticed, but Jeremiah Love had broken free down the left side. And he raced by a cornerback who he outran, and he was on his way to the end zone. And Jacoby Thomas takes a perfect angle. You have to understand, Jeremiah Love is freaky, quick, and fast and strong. And Jaden Harris, who runs just as fast, if not faster, in the 40, he runs faster than the 40, honestly, than Jacoby, would not even have come close to Love. But the really instinctive safeties understand. They see the speed at which somebody's moving currently, and they understand their own speed, and they know where they can hit that player, where they can match that up. It's almost like a theorem in their own heads that they can visualize. And Jacoby Thomas did it perfectly and took the exact hypotenuse to hit him at the exact spot that he was going to be at that 3-yard line, and that's where he shoved him out of bounds. And I think they wound up scoring. But regardless, there's going to be times that they don't score on those. But to see a guy finally take good angles and understand, here's how fast he's running, the direction he's running, and here's how fast I know I run, and here's where I will meet him. So therefore, I have to run at this angle. It sounds easy. It's not, and we've seen so many Miami safeties do it incorrectly so many times that cost Miami touchdowns or long gains. So to see Thomas do that, I was actually very excited about that. It was a bad play from Miami, but I was like, that was great. I said, what a great play by Thomas, even though it was a pretty good game to the 3.
Yeah. All right, so to wrap it all up, a solid opening night, a few things that you wish they had done differently, that they probably wish they'd done differently. But the end result is all good when you win. Miami's 1-0. They got a victory over the number 5-6 team in the country. That goes a long way at the end of the year when the committee sits down and makes decisions on who gets into the playoffs. So congrats to Mario and company for that opening night, and now they move forward. It doesn't, you got Bethune-Cookman, and then obviously you got the Florida Gators and USF in there as well, and then then it's gonna be time to play Florida State. So there's no rest for the weary in this thing. Miami's got to get better fast, and I think they will. I think they got a lot to work with on this football team, and are only going to get better. All right, other things that are on the website today. As Matt said, we have a film analysis of Malachi Toney that you don't want to miss. How did Shannon Dawson use him so successfully? We go inside of that. I've got a question and answer session going.
Oh, and by the way, it was Price. Not, I want to correct myself. It was Price, not Love, that Thomas chased down. But still, it's still an elite running back. But my mistake. I'm glad I corrected that. People yelled at me for being an idiot. Well, I'm an idiot.
Thank you for correcting that. We've got a question and answer thread going with the fans. That's really interesting. We always cover a lot of ground in those, so you can check that out on the website. We have a closer look inside Carson Beck's stellar play from Sunday night. More recruiting feedback from the litany of recruits that were in attendance at the stadium against during the Notre Dame game, so you could check that out as well. Program note, tonight we have our CaneSport live show at 8 o'clock with myself, Mattt Shodell, and it's the fan show, man. We get to hear from Hurricane fans all over the country and see what's on everybody's mind. So make sure you join us tonight at 8 for CaneSport Live. If you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, you see the information at the bottom of your screen. Go to CaneSport.com. Check us out. You can do a trial for the first week for $1. Doesn't get any cheaper than that. You won't be sorry. You'll do the trial. You'll want to stay forever. We got a great community of fans at CaneSport.com. Our entire staff works their, as Matt's son would say, their ass off to make you guys the most knowledgeable fans in America and really get you inside the pulse of your team. So make sure you become a subscriber at CaneSport.com. So for Mattt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we'll see you next time, everybody.